Hey guys, welcome to this question and answer session with the Pattern Trader. My name is Mark Shawzin, the Pattern Trader. Today we had the worst inflation numbers we've seen since the early 1980s. We haven't seen inflation spikes like this in 4 decades. Consumer prices came out 8 tenths versus the expected 2 tenths. So now we're tracking at double digit, inflation here. The markets are running red hot. The Fed is nowhere to be seen, and it seems like the markets are out of control now. So you're seeing this huge volatility, all this compression that I've been talking about in these growth stocks, are coming to bear. These markets, these companies are getting decimated. So if you have any questions, let's chat about them. Let's talk about what's going on in the markets. So I've been talking about these, four horsemen of the apocalypse, these second tier, these Nasdaq stocks, QuantumScape, Zoom, Peloton, and Beyond Meat. And we're just seeing continuous cratering in these and many other stocks like them. So this is really no surprise to me what we're seeing today. Markets are down substantially. The stock markets are down. Dow, S&P. So Nabaraj, how you doing? I've been talking about the. Hey, Mustafa. So we had the worst inflation numbers since 1980. Consumer prices came out 8 tenths, and now we're running double-digit inflation. This is to no shock. And yet we still have a Federal Reserve that is nowhere to be seen. Never have we seen in history a Federal Reserve that has been this complacent in the face of these kind of numbers. And I don't know what game they're trying to play, but not gonna work out well. So we're starting to see that the stock markets are starting to roll at these substantial resistance levels. We've just had these huge, gigantic ranges. So, kind of the Nasdaq and everything's kind of unpredictable right now. I mean, I do think that they're, turning, but they're just huge, massive, intraday changes every day. So, you really got to stick to, what, is working, and then, have a very disciplined approach. Sorry, I'm just going to some of these charts here. Hey, dog, how you doing? Nabaraj, I've also been fighting. I've also been recently in and out of hospitals and fighting a lot of medical concerns. So I'm glad. Hopefully that worked out well for you. Hey, Edith, how you doing? Hey, Yoni, how are you? We've just been talking about these inflation numbers that came out early this morning in the U.S., 0.8%. So now we're running double-digit inflations. This is the highest inflation we've seen since the 1980s. But, in the 1980s, the Federal Reserve responded, ran interest rates substantially higher. And now you've got a Federal Reserve that just says, they're just going to stand aside and watch this thing happen. And, from everything I learned in my old, economic textbooks is that, once the numbers start appearing, it's actually almost too late to respond. You have to be ahead of the curve. It's like the virus. If you're behind the virus, it's just too late. 3 weeks, 4 weeks in a virus. It's kind of the same thing here. So, it's just going to be interesting to see, the way we're playing out. But the NASDAQ is looking like it's putting in a major top. I've been talking about this for a long time now. Last 3, 4, 5 months, I've been looking at, Tesla and QuantumScape and Peloton and Zoom and all of these other stocks, putting in these giant bear price patterns. And so, when these numbers appear, and the market's down and and the media is talking about it, we say, well, the stocks are down because of this. But, this is something that I've been talking about for weeks now. And, the numbers just start supporting. So the market is always ahead of the news. And this is what I always say, the market is a discounting mechanism. So back in February, these stocks were already starting to roll. And now we're starting to see all of the secondary, effects of what, is going on here. Having said that, it's, a crazy environment out there. So Mustafa says, how should silver and inflation affect silver and gold? So Mustafa, I've learned kind of not to think that way. So when you see an inflation number, then you say, well, gold should go up. And gold went up today, and now it's kind of getting knocked back. So I try not to look at the news. The news is once the news comes out, gold has already been anticipating this number. So gold bottomed out at 1760, went to 1840. And so I'm not saying that it's over, but you got to be careful about looking at news events and then trying to trade those news events. You always just got to trade, what the position is, and then you've got to look at the risk reward of what you're trading. And can you boil it down to a risk reward? So Yoni said, would you short the Dow if it makes a weekly key reversal? So I think the Dow is the strongest, Yoni. So, you've just had this rotation every day. You go from momentum to value to, so let me just kind of look at the Dow. I do think that we are coming very close to a major top. I felt that way, that the end of May is probably likely going to coincide with a major top. So just kind of looking at this weekly chart here. And every time you write the epitaph of this market, so this looks like the first time, Yoni, that you have a major key reversal after a year and a half of going, higher. We hit 35,000, and now we've, looked like we've, had a reversal bar. That being said, I kind of, my feeling is one swim doesn't make a summer, meaning just because we have a reversal here, it may take a couple of reversals in this area. It's going to be hard to see how. I want to see what the monthly looks like here also. I think we're going to, we're early in the month here, but we're also getting a reversal on the month. So this does feel like we are getting to the apex of something. But then does that mean it's just going to drop out of the sky? Or does it, go, does it need to do some work in here? Does it need to go sideways? So I think the Dow of all of the things, to me, the Nasdaq is more mature. Yeah, hard to tell. Clearly we found a resistance area, and now I don't know if we kind of go lower, then we got to go higher. We got to do some work in here. So, the indexes have been, a difficult place to, to trade. And that's why I've been focusing on individual stocks. So I think of all of the indexes, probably I would be looking at the Nasdaq as the most fertile. That thing looks like it's really rolling over. And it makes sense, with inflation, the growth stocks are going to be the first ones that are going to get punished with interest rates going higher. So if I was going to, play in the indexes, Yoni, I'd probably play in the Nasdaq. And I'm a little upset. I did get short on Friday. I came into this week with some puts, and I've been so used to this thing just backing and filling. I took some very early profits, and I have not gotten back in. And, and it's like now is probably the time to get in. So I'm looking at this long-term trend line. That I'm looking at the Nasdaq now. Basically, it's coming back to it today. Tesla kind of, fell through that. You've got ARK. You've got all of these stocks that have been held up by this long-term. Let me see what Qualcomm looks like. And so now you're starting to retest this trend line, and I don't think this time it's going to work. Yeah, so Qualcomm is looking terrible now. Yeah, Qualcomm started breaking below. Qualcomm broke below. So everything is starting to break below. There's this this uptrend line that all these stocks, Tesla, Arc Financial, Qualcomm, everything has been bouncing off of. And now those bouncing, I don't think you're going to bounce. So I would, be inclined to short any meaningful rallies here. Yeah, Qualcomm looks terrible. So Ben says, if you have to pick one downside bet, Microsoft, Tesla, Facebook. Yeah, so I wouldn't put Tesla in the same league as Facebook and Microsoft. So I would say Microsoft is probably the best, long-term stock. Although it's putting on, a funky looking double top here, and it's also sitting on this neckline. So all of these stocks look like they're ready to roll through this neckline. Tesla, Facebook. So I would say Tesla is, the weakest, and I'd be inclined to short Tesla first. Suena says QuantumScape. So last night we have the earnings numbers. QuantumScape had a really funky reversal yesterday, and I was making so much money, in the pre-market session. I was up at just a ton. I've been shorting the stock since the high 30s, and it closed at 28, the other day, and then in the pre-market session yesterday, I was trading at 25, and instead of peeling out, I was kind of licking my chops, and then it went from 25 to 32 yesterday, in anticipation of earnings. But I just feel that this stock is in a long-term downtrend. I would just put a sell stop under today's lows, which is QuantumScape 27.30. I thought it was 26.88. It says, yeah. So I think there's something wrong with my low here. So I would put just a sell stop under today's low to get short again if you're not already short. So I think QuantumScape is on a long trek under $20. So Mustafa said, I closed my quantum. Yeah, so yesterday I did send out, an email to close half your position. So Mustafa said he was making so many profits he couldn't stand it. So yeah, that's sometimes the way it gets. And, and sometimes it's very hard to hold a position. And, yesterday made it really difficult. You never know how these news things are going to go. And, QuantumScape literally opened down 10% yesterday, and then it moved like 30% the other way. So it just had ridiculous moves. And now we're back on the lows again. And, I would use any rally to short QuantumScape. All of these stocks are looking bad. And I'm looking at Facebook too, which I would think of all of them. But, you have this funky double top at 320. And I think it's the strongest of all of them, but that strong is relative. But the thing you got to watch out for is that these short covering rallies are huge. So you got to be pretty careful about where you get in these things. You can't just sell the lows. Probably better to wait for these massive rallies to occur. One stock that's looking particularly weak today is Beyond Meat. I'm long some puts in BYND. And that looks like it's failing today and probably retest that 100 level. So I'm short the stock and long the puts of BYND also. Dog OSTK, is that Overstock? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Overstock's in this kind of symmetrical triangle. It's got this rising uptrend line, and then it's in this symmetrical triangle. I would leave that one alone. So there are certain stocks that look better than others for shorting, and I don't know. That looks still jammed up in here. I would kind of leave that alone. Also went long Pound New Zealand yesterday. That's having a good day, and I think I've always harbored. So Pound New Zealand's having a monster day today. Went from 194 to 196 and a half. This is not surprising to me. I've been saying, even though it looked terrible, even when it sold off from 198 to 192, I, this thing is just a long-term hold. And today's price action only solidifies that. I think we're going above 2 in Pound New Zealand in not too distant future. Yeah, so Mustafa, sometimes our profit objectives, the market has other. I still think we get to 20 on QuantumScape. I think we get to 15. I think we get to 10. But it's how the market gets there. It's you've just got huge conflicting things going on all the time. Inflation numbers and all this churn from growth to momentum to value and there's a lot of noise in there. So it's a pretty dangerous environment. So you really have to pick your spots. Yoni asks about Australian US. So I think that these things are long term. Yoni, but the dollar can go sideways for 6 months. And I think you're just in one of these things. It's back and forth. I think the dollar goes weaker ultimately, but you're just in one of these churns where it could just take, a long time to kind of figure out, so that the Australian has this long-term resistance, overhead resistance at 80. So every time it kind of hits up in that area, it kind of backs off. And I just think you're just in this chop right now. And that's why I've been saying, you have to be so selective about where you get in, how you get in. And I think the Australian, if you have a long-term perspective, you'll do okay. And to me, it's all about finding those setups, those really juicy setups like QuantumScape. When QuantumScape was at 41 and Mustafa and some other people who were on here were on with me on a webinar about 3 weeks ago. And, it's what happens is, so the more mature, a pattern gets, the more work it's done, then it starts, doing some work. And then you can see, from the reversals and the price action that you're getting closer and closer to, something that's ready to break from one, trading level to the other. And then, how to assess your risk. So right now, QQQ's probably a short, but, they're going in 500 point bands. So very difficult to kind of pick your spot as to where and how you assess your risk. And to me, that's really what it's all about. It's like I load up on trades when it gets closer and closer and it just whittles down where the trend is mature, the pattern's mature, the price action, does, a couple of things. It hangs out in a couple of things, in certain areas, you get these reversals or inside bars. And so it just, it starts setting up where it gets closer and closer. Now you kind of in these areas where you've just got these giant banging ranges. And so you kind of have to just wait for those days where it settles out and gives you a reversal in the direction that this thing wants to go in. So like, for instance, BYND, probably a good example today of what and how I would look to play something. So BYND, Beyond Meat, in this huge, broke this neckline around 115. And, now I think we're going to go lower. And so today you made a slightly new high from yesterday. You went like a little bit above 110. And if we close on the low, to me, that would be a reversal in the direction that this thing wants to go. So I would just, this thing by the end of the day could close a lot higher. So that's why I wait until the end of the day, to get a final verdict. And so, it's not as much fun. You're not doing much trading intraday. You're waiting for BYND to close today to see how it closes. And then I would just put a sell stop under today's low. So, BYND, the pattern is really mature. It's taken years to create this double top, head and shoulders, whatever it is. It broke through that neckline around 115. It could still fart around here and retest that neckline, a bunch of times. But I think this is, an example of a mature thing. And then you have a failure today where you had a key reversal, made a new high, close on the low. And, right now, let's see, the low is 104.80. So I don't know what it'll be by the end of the day, but whatever it is, I would wait for that. And then, the way I do it is then I would just short it under today's low, put a sell stop under today's low. So, my thinking is the pattern's really mature. It's done a lot of work. Today it had a failure. And so you've got to wait for those bars, those failure bars, to kind of give you an idea where the risk and reward is. So now I can set up my trade tomorrow in Beyond Meat. I know where to sell it. I know where to put the risk. And, then I can understand it. Here you're just getting these giant, massive swings back and forth. And, it's very hard to understand your risk. And so, when things come flying in your face, you don't know what to do. And, that's when, you lose a bunch of money. Ben says, what about TSM? Yeah, that looks pretty good too. It kind of looks like Qualcomm. And again, I can visualize, let me just see this uptrend line. It actually took out this uptrend line a while ago. So there's been this uptrend line in a lot of these stocks. Let me just kind of draw this real quick. Yeah, so this actually broke out to the downside under 115 a couple days ago. And now, ideally you'd like to get some kind of retest back, to 115, 112. You may not get it. So, here again, you have this little narrow range bar sitting right at the low. And yeah, this looks pretty bad. You've got the head and shoulders pattern and you've broken this long uptrend line. So all of these stocks are starting to break under this long. So it just signifies that I think you're going to get a roll in just about everything. Everything's going to start coming down. Dog says, any hope for lift? Yeah, I don't know if I think I've abandoned that one. That looks horrible now. That's kind of took on a new pattern, where you've got this quadruple top at the 65 area. And now it looks terrible. Let me just check out Uber. Yeah, Uber also. Uber looks like this monster top also. So, yeah, these stocks are starting to look sick. Farron says, it seems like BYND does not want to break down since it broke below the neckline. Yes. So, Farron, the way I see BYND is that it broke through that 113, 115 long-term neckline. Yesterday, you had a bit of a key reversal, hit 100, went to 110. All of these things had a fake reversal yesterday, but today you're failing. So today you made a slightly new high above yesterday, and right now you're on the low. So Farron's, I don't know, if it closes, on the high of the day, then it's going to change what it looks like. But if it closes on the low of the day, to me, that's a reversal in the direction of the trend. It's got a well-established pattern behind it. And like I said, I would be inclined to put a sell stop under today's low with a stop loss above today's high. And that to me is a very clear risk reward relationship that I could live with. Swan is wanting to know about Kratos. That was also a stock I was looking at. And I think that started rolling over. I started looking at it yesterday. And yeah, all these stocks are starting to look terrible. Kratos is also on this long-term trend line, and it's just starting to break, underneath that. So, I think it's safe to say that stocks are breaking lower. Now, industrial cyclicals, those are, have, certain different dimensions. I mean, if you look at Caterpillar, CAT looks fantastic. Long-term uptrend, maybe it stops going up here, but it doesn't look like it's going to, be a short. So, there's all kinds of stocks out there, and you just want to look at the dogs, the high growth, area of the Nasdaq to me is where I've been playing in. I've been shorting every rally into all of these. Probably going to try and short Tesla again in a moment. Hit this like 600 area. It's breaking. It's also, let me just see where it is relative to this trend line. So TSLA is going to be, I think, a huge one. If it breaks, it's going to break significantly. So yeah, it broke the other day. It's just under. It's under here. Yeah. So I was hoping maybe you get maybe a retest back to 630 or something. I don't know if you're going to. This broke under this long-term trend line, and now there's just nothing but air underneath here. TSLA. So I may just short that in a few minutes just for the fun of it. Yeah, so it's got some near-term support at 600. I don't know if you're going to get any more of a bounce than you've already had. It may be a short right here. Christian, BTU Peabody Energy. What is the symbol, Christian? BTU? I don't know if that's what I'm looking at. Is that a $7 stock? Well, it's taken off, obviously, with this oil hack. Might have had something to do with it. Interesting chart. Let me just look at the weekly here. This could be just a dead cat bounce. I mean, it had such a long. Yeah, I wouldn't be inclined to play this. Yeah, I wouldn't. You don't know when that's going to run out of steam, Christian. It looks like it's got momentum now. If you want to play that momentum, but it looks like a dangerous game to play. Yeah, I would. It's a long-term downtrend. This is just a bounce off the bottom, a dead cat bounce, and I wouldn't be inclined to play that. I mean, the DAX still looks pretty strong, actually. Although it's also going to run into its long-term uptrend line, but it looks better than the Nasdaq, Edith. So I think it's generally it's in an uptrend. It's obviously got some headwinds in here. Yeah, it looks like all of these stocks are ready to come down now. QuantumScape's coming back down to the low of the day. Tesla, all of these stocks are hugging the low of the day. So I don't know. I particularly just favored Beyond Meat. I sold Beyond Meat into the rally yesterday. I bought the 106 puts expiring on Friday. So making a little bit of money in those. Barbara, VMW. Kind of hard to say. Barbara. I kind of betwixt and between. Looks like a pretty trading range market in here. I suppose if it eventually got above 170, it would have room to run. But yeah, right now it's just in a trading range. I wouldn't sell it. I don't know that I would buy it. So what else are you guys doing? Are you guys trading FX? Are you trading gold, stocks? Let me know what you guys are thinking. I learn as much from you as hopefully you get from me. Um, yeah, this whole environment just looks like it's over. I look at Zoom. I just think that's going to get cut in half. Thanks, Mustafa. I appreciate your support all the time. And on U.S. oil, um, yeah, that crude is looking fairly good. It's going to hit resistance around 75, 70 to 75, but I mean the path of least resistance seems higher for right now. Thanks, Yoni. I appreciate it, man. Fiverr. This thing has just broken its neckline recently. Yeah. It's hard to tell. Sometimes you just get an instinct, or I mean, clearly we have the double top, the head and shoulders. Every chart looks like this, and so it's a question of which one do you fire at. And some look stronger than others on a relative strength. I mean, Fiverr, just may take a while to roll here. I can't see it going straight down. It's some are more robust than others. Krasi says, I've been tracking dollar CAD for buying support. I've been short dollar CAD for a long time. And, I would only, kind of get out of short positions. I would not initiate a long position here. I think it's such a huge downtrend now. There is support right here. There is huge support at the 120 to 122. I think you're gonna get a tepid bounce at best. So I don't think that I would initiate a long. If I have massive profits on the short side. I could definitely see covering 30, 50% of your shorts, but I would not get long here. So Ference says tomorrow's weekly job number, if good, could push the Nasdaq lower on inflation. So Ference, again, I don't look at these reports. Craig, I got out of UVXY and I'm so pissed I did. I had a massive position in that thing and I hopped out. And now that's probably just getting started. UVXY is an inverse indicator. So Ference, I'm sorry, I don't look at reports. Half the time I don't know when reports are coming out. I try not to look at them. To me, this market's going to go where it's going to go, and the news is just going to push it to where it's going to go anyways. And this chart is starting to look like it wants to roll over. So any news can push it. And remember, news can be interpreted. It's always amazing that when a market is in an uptrend, bearish news will come out and it'll absorb it. You'll get this quick sell off, and then it'll just go in the direction of the trend. So news and information, it's depending on the environment, right? So got to be very careful about that. Stocks are the same. You can have a very bearish announcement. I think Palantir came out with some bad earnings the other day, and the stock opened and then went higher. So you can't trade the news. Got to be very careful about that. These Nasdaq stocks, this whole feeling of this Nasdaq, the daily just feels like you've got this long-term ascending, broadening, wedge pattern, and I just feel like this thing is, starting to poise to go lower. Cressy asks about the euro US dollar. Again, the dollar's kind of been in this trading range, and so has the euro. So let me just, I think the dollar goes down long term, but I don't know. John Maynard Keynes or somebody, an economist, said in the long term we're all dead. So I don't know what long term means. I mean, we've got this weekly key reversal here again at the 122 area. There's a lot of resistance in the euro, 122 to 125. It's all jammed up in here. The dollar's probably just going to, go 122 to 118 in the euro for, it looks like, for a while here until we kind of, get out of this area. Yeah, meantime, Tesla's coming down to its low here. I wanted to short it 5 minutes ago at 606, and now it's 600. Yeah, I think this thing could really come apart. Yeah, Mustafa, I struggle with the metals. I really struggle with the metals. I think, the long-term trends suggest that, they're going higher, but I just see that it's just, silver between 24 and 28 where we are now, just been in this giant thing, and you really have to have, I think, a massive conviction, a massive long-term thing. It kind of comes back down to, finding trades that are ready, that are fully baked, that have done all the work, and then they have a setup where you can see a set of bars where it just looks like it's coiling and ready to go. And with silver and gold, I think the long-term patterns indicate higher, but, I don't see a set of bars that I can really get behind and have, a lot of conviction where I can just, tee up a trade and understand exactly where the risk and reward is. The risk and reward can be anywhere, $30 higher, $30 lower. These things can swing. So I don't know. I've just been kind of leaving these metals alone. I've just been, camping out in this playground, this swamp of the backwater of the Nasdaq. To me, it's like, shooting, just every time Zoom rallies, I short it. Every time QuantumScape rallies, I short it. I shorted Tesla this morning. I got out. I wanted to get it back on this thing, and now looks like stocks are ready to make a new low right now. Ben says GM is testing the low. So, again, GM is one of the stronger stocks. So, again, you got to figure out where to spend your time and focus, and, where the risk reward is. So, yeah, there's some resistance here in GM, but, how much fruit is it going to bear? I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, there's definitely resistance. Look, there's going to be resistance in all stocks, and it's just picking where you want to camp out. That's going to be the best risk reward. And as I said, I try and drill down to a very fertile pattern, a pattern that's taken a long time, like QuantumScape, like Beyond Meat, where you've had all of these false breaks to the other side. And now every false move is less and less. And so, it gets clearer and clearer that, you have much less risk shorting Beyond Meat, shorting QuantumScape. Even if it goes up, you don't really get a feeling that you have huge exposure. And so with gold and silver, I don't know. I could wake up tomorrow, gold could be down $30. I wouldn't be surprised. And still be in an uptrend. So look for this. I played a sell at 13,250 on the Nasdaq. So the indexes have been kind of a hard place to be. Look for you. So I have, again, I keep on saying I've just been playing in these individual names that I feel like I have a much better idea. So when the Nasdaq was cruising to making new highs, QuantumScape was making new lows, as was Zoom, as was Peloton. So I think it's just finding out where it's all about the risk and reward. And with the markets being in such flux, gold being up $30 one day, down $20 the other day, you really got to hone in on a name where you feel like you understand where the risk and reward is. Like Pound New Zealand, because of all of the bullish price patterns, even though it looked so choppy at this 192, to me that represented such a great risk reward area. If I could get into 192, to me, very unlikely we're going to go below 190. So it's really understanding a risk reward, and especially in this market, and especially in stocks, because every day we come in with a different theme. Industrials were up 250 the other day, and the Nasdaq was down 250. Then the following day, the industrials are down 500, and the Nasdaq's climbing back to unchanged. So you get these internal churning, every day. And, if you're caught up in these indexes, you can be fried. But, I've just been camping out short QuantumScape, and, from $42, it's been pretty smooth, riding all the way down. And so I just try and find names where I understand the risk reward very well. So, even if QuantumScape, went up $1, I've been shorting into the rallies in QuantumScape. So sometimes I've been getting in, adding, and then it goes against me. I just add more. So it's really establishing that comfort level, and it's very hard to say in the indexes where that comfort level is. You have just huge, 500 pip trading ranges in these queues now. So you just gotta. And so the best way to do it, like I said, is to wait for the end of the day and let the market show you within the boundaries of what it's doing. And then you can assess the risk reward around a daily bar like BYND. So I'm going to see how BYND closes today. And if, we still close, closer to the low than the high, I'm already short. I'm short the stock. I'm long the puts. I'll probably add to my position just for the hell of it, to put a sell stop under today's low, and then I understand that today's high is where my risk area is. So unless you really understand where your risk reward is, you're just hostage to the market. When the market's like cratering, and you think the market, and then you get in, and it goes up a monster amount, and it's just a good way to lose a lot of money. So the only way, especially in this environment, is that you got to be more selective, and you got to be more disciplined. And, to me, I just look at the setup, certainly on the daily bar. So Ayub says, can the Nasdaq be sold at this area? Probably, but, it's arbitrary. So do you go in right here, and then, it could be up another 200 points in the next half an hour. So, what I like to do is, whatever. If I'm looking at a trend, I like to wait. So you have to wait for the market to come to you. If you're constantly chasing, certainly a market like this, it's like a dog chasing a parked car. You're not gonna, it's not gonna be fun. So you have to wait for the market to come to you. Wait for a certain setup. So yes, the Nasdaq does look like it's turning. So now, ideally, what you want to do is find like an inside bar. You want to find a key reversal bar. You want to find something where you can understand when you get in what the risk reward is. Right now, it could be anything. It could be 1,000 points up and down in the Nasdaq. So if you don't know, and if you're looking at a 5-minute bar or an hourly bar, it's just a gamble. So I know it's not much fun, But, to me, if you don't have a trade on, trading is over for right now. Wait for the end of the day and then look at your setups. Look at the pattern. See if there's a bar or a group of bars that you can understand where you would place your trade, and then if it violated certain areas, how you would assess your risk. And yeah, Cressy, that's never worked for me. So they never come to me. No, but it's pretty much true. You have to wait for if you're chasing the markets, then you'll get sliced and diced, especially a market like this where half an hour it looked great. Now it's turning back up, and you're constantly in this you're bouncing back and forth, and then it becomes a cycle of revenge trading, right? So you jump in, you do a trade here, you lose, you do a trade there, you lose, and now you're pissed, and now you're just trading. Now you're just the market has just got hold of you. You've just lost your karma, and I have to caution myself to do this all the time, because it's just, especially like in today's kind of markets, if you're looking at the screen, and I'm watching prices move. Tesla moved from 606 to 600. I wanted to short it. Now it's at 602. So, I have my trade. I don't know. For some reason, I just like BYND today. I just like that its cadence is, whatever the market's doing, it's just slowly making new lows on the day. And, I understand this chart. I understand the price action. And today, if we have this reversal from 110, right now it's 105. If it's 103, whatever it is, it's going to constitute a reversal where during the day, it made a new high. By the end of the day, it probably will close closer to the low than the high. And then tomorrow, I'll look at whatever the low is today and just put a sell stop underneath there. And if I lose, I can justify those trades. I'll do that all day long. I'm not going to win every trade, but, at least I can understand what I'm doing. Other than that, you're just taking darts and throwing it at a dartboard. Benjamin says you're a good teacher. Yeah, look, it's hard for me to teach, on these kind of screens because I'm just talking. You really can't see the picture I'm looking at, so I have to kind of give a visual idea of what I'm looking at. So look for you. So you just nailed it with your chasing point. I've been bleeding because I chased the Nasdaq. It's a very easy vortex to get in, and I think it all comes down to trading is just too accessible. So not to date myself or age myself, but when I started trading, there was no internet, there was no fancy chart books. I was trading commodities, like orange juice and live hogs and T-bond futures and what have you. And I would, I'd get a chart book in the mail at the beginning of the week, and then I'd have to update it myself manually. And then, whatever trade I was in, I would call my broker like every hour. I had no idea where the prices were, but it actually slowed things down. So instead of seeing things bounce around every second here, where it's a new shiny object, I'm watching Tesla, drop from 600 to 606 to 600 back to 603. My emotions, I want to do things all the time. The thing is, you have to have some distance. So I would recommend, if you guys really want to be successful, and you're not going to like this, is only look at the markets once a day. And I guarantee you'll be so much more successful. But it's hard to do. We're bored. You want distraction. It's a lot of fun to watch these things go all over the place, but it doesn't mean you're going to make money doing that. In fact, just the opposite. So, if you can just look at the patterns and forget the news, forget what moved the charts, see how something, closes relative to the high and low, see what the patterns, see what the trends are, put your risk reward in there, put your sell stop, put your stop loss, go away, till the next day. If your trade's been triggered, you're in the market, you're either in a profit. If you've been stopped out, fine, you reassess, you go into the next trade. But that is how you become successful. If you're in and out watching these 5 minute charts, guaranteed. And I know from experience, I just detonated so much money myself because I love to trade and I can see stuff all the time, and but I know I get very hostage to different emotions very quickly. It's hard not to. The path of oil is, the path of least resistance is higher. I mean, there's substantial right here at 70, but um, so I'm looking at the Qs now coming down back down to the lows of the day. So it just feels like we are in a probably the most dangerous environment that I viscerally feel it. I feel like the Fed is so out of sync with what's happening in the markets, and that we have created such an asset bubble. So the Fed has done this every time. In 2000, it didn't. When the markets crashed, um, they were too quick to react. In 2005, they fed another asset bubble, and they just keep on fueling these bubbles. And I think that when you look at Bitcoin and NFTs and all the craziness, the SPACs, the IPOs, all the froth, I think the excess that needs to come out of this market is just huge, and it's just gonna crater. Um, so we're seeing all of the stocks now in the lows of the day. Beyond Meat just made a new low. I think Zoom's on the low. QuantumScape's on the low. Tesla's on the low. So Cressy says, I'd love to join your elite program and get this right. Well, call Zach Cressy. He'll work it out with you. Send a message to support at the Pattern Trader. Tell him you want to speak to Zach, and I'll tell Zach that you're on my morning session, and I'll work something out with you. So Kirby says he's still got that put play in Zoom. Yeah, so stocks are making new lows right now. All right, guys, I think I'm going to leave you there. Just stick to the discipline. And, if you have a long-term horizon, I think you can be short these stocks. Pick Beyond Meat, QuantumScape, Zoom, Tesla. They look like they're all going down. All right, guys. Thanks, Mustafa. Thanks as always. Appreciate it. I'll